Miami Heat versus the Atlanta Hawks. Right now, the Hawks are 6.5-point underdogs with an over-under at 217.5. The Hawks are coming off of two big wins just to get into the playoffs. One versus the Hornets, one versus the Cavs. They score an average of 114 points per game. They're led by Trae Young in points and assists. They're 7-2 against the spread in the last 9 games. The Heat are number 1 seed in the East. They've won 3 of the 4 regular season meetings versus the Hawks, but none by more than 6. They've won 6 of their last 7 games. They're 6-1 against the spread in those games. They score 110 points per game and only give up 105.6 points per game, which is 5th best in the NBA. Clint Capella and John Collins are both out for the Hawks, and a lot of the money and the bets have been placed on the Heat, but I'm going to fade the public and take the Hawks to cover the 6.5 points, but the Heat to win. Brooklyn Nets versus the Boston Celtics. Right now, the Celtics are 4-point favorites. The game is taking place in Boston with an over-under at 224.5. Nets are coming off of a win versus the Cavs just to get into the playoffs. Kyrie Irving had a crazy game versus his old team. He also leads them in assists. Kevin Durant leads them in points. They average 113.1 points per game. They allow 112 points per game. They shoot 36.1% from the three and 47.5% from the field. The Celtics rank number 1 in defensive efficiency. They're number 1 in points against. They're number 1 in field goal rating against. They score about 113 points per game on offense. Robert Williams is still out with an injury. About 90% of the money right now is being bet on Boston. About like 80% of the bets is being bet on Boston. I'm going to take the Celtics to win and the Celtics to cover the 4. Chicago Bulls versus the Milwaukee Bucks in Milwaukee. Right now, the Bucks are 10-point favorites with an over-under at 228.5. The Bucks are 4-0 versus the Bulls this season. 2 of those games they won by 6 points or less. 2 of those games they won by 20 points or more. They're also 7-0 versus the Bulls at home in the last 7 games. The Bulls rank 23rd in defensive efficiency, and they allow 111.1 points per game. They score 111.7 points per game. The Bulls are 3-10 against the spread in the last 13 games on the road. The Bucks are 16-25 against the spread at home this season. They're 3rd in offensive efficiency, and they average 115.5 points per game. They play at the 7th fastest pace in the NBA. They rank 14th in defensive efficiency, and they allow 112.1 points per game. They finished 13 games above 500 at home this season. 10 points is a lot. 86% of the money is being bet on the Bulls. I'm still going to take the Bucks to win and the Bucks to cover the 10. New Orleans Pelicans versus the Phoenix Suns in Phoenix. Right now, the Suns are 10.5-point favorites with an over-under at 225.5. The Pelicans are coming off of 2 big wins just to get into the playoffs. One versus the Spurs and one versus the banged-up Clippers. They have 2 guys averaging over 20 points per game in Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum. They score an average of 109.3 points per game, which is 21st in the NBA. They give up 110.1 points per game, which is 13th in the NBA. The Suns are the number 1 team in the NBA, number 1 record. They're number 1 in field goal efficiency. They rank 5th in offensive efficiency, and they score 114.8 points per game. They rank 3rd in defensive efficiency and only allow 107.3 points per game. New Orleans is 1-5 against the spread in the last 6 versus teams with winning records. Phoenix is 7-2 against the spread the last 9 with 3 days more rest. About 50% of the money is on Phoenix and 50% of the money is on the Pelicans. I'm going to just roll with the Suns. It's a toss-up.